Welcome back to the Outfit Repeaters podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shelby.
And we are your hosts. Today is a very exciting occasion because this is our 10th episode.
Yay!
Insert the here. So today we're going to be covering Season 1, Episode 10, I Do, I Don't. But before we get there, we're going to do something a little different. And we are going to share our unexpected favorite episode from the first 10. We've already covered Aaron Carter. I've Got Rhythmic. Those are obvious favorites, but let's chat about what may have been kind of an unexpected favorite. Shelby, do you have any thoughts?
I think an unexpected favorite for me was the babysitting episode. I really liked that one.
I suspected you were going to say that.
I really liked that one. We had a lot of sassy comebacks in that one.
We did. And we got a lot of all of the kids, which, some episodes are more Lizzie-centric, some are, a kind of hybrid between Lizzie and Matt. So that was kind of fun that we had the whole gang plus Matt and their misadventures.
Agreed. What about you? What's an unexpected favorite?
Unexpected favorite was Election. It's one that I remember, but didn't remember until I watched it again. It's not like a standout episode on its own. I think, now watching it back, it was a lot more fun because we have Sarah Paxton. When we watched it the first time, I am fully doubtful that either of us knew really who Sarah Paxton was because This is before some of her most popular breakout roles. This is the first episode where we really get bad attitude Lizzie, because we get her several times throughout the series, where she, kind of turns on her friends a little bit. And we got a lot of Tudge. So all around was, just kind of unexpected, and enjoyable.
Yes, I've really enjoyed going back and watching some of these episodes that are from earlier and maybe didn't get aired as much as some of the newer episodes did. So
for sure.
It's been good. It
has, and it's, there's been a very clear evolution of the show. I know we've talked about this a good bit about, where the show started as far as what was Lizzie thinking and kind of how things have evolved a little bit, how the characters have kind of leaned into themselves a little bit more. So episode 1 Kate versus episode 10 Kate are two very different people. So
absolutely.
That's been really fun, and it's certainly something that we pick up on now as we're rewatching it that we probably didn't pay any attention to as children.
Yeah, absolutely. I've liked seeing them grow into who they are in some of the later episodes, and definitely in season 2.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, our apologies for being gone for so long.
We're just girls.
We're just girls. The first week we were having technical issues and could not come up with a solution. And then last week was just insanely busy. We could not find a single hour in the whole week to get our lives together and record. So, but we are back with a force. Speaking of Tudgeman, we get a lot of Tudgeman in I Do, I Don't.
We do. And we get a little bit of character development from him as well, because, the other episodes he's kind of had just almost like a cameo, I would argue.
Right. A line or two.
And yeah, may have had a line or two, and we get a lot of Tudge here. So this is a fun one.
Yes.
All right. So without further ado, season 1, episode 10, I Do, I Don't. Original air date, April 27th, 2001. So we open up with a 3-way call, the classic Lizzie, Gordo, Miranda 3-way call, and Lizzie says, "Face it, Miranda, it doesn't matter which X-Men you are. You could be Mystique, that hot blue chick, and Ethan Kraft wouldn't give you the time of day, which is why I'd be Rogue. I'd use my mutant power to suck away all of Kate's popularity. Ethan Kraft would have no choice but to turn to me." And Miranda, of course, jumps in and says, "Or moi." And of course, here Gordo is irritated. It's, he's in the land of women and he is just Gordo. And he rags on Ethan here saying that they're arguing over a guy that's going to end up working at a gas station. Part-time. So Matt barges into Lizzie's bedroom asking if she's seen the flashlight. And of course, she is like, "No, on the phone, leave." And then she starts threatening that he's got 5 seconds until she sits on his head. And here Matt is basically like digging through Lizzie's laundry basket looking for the flashlight. And once she gets to 3, he finds it and exits the room. And shortly thereafter, Sam comes barging in without knocking as well. And Lizzie says, "Does anyone knock in this house?" And Sam leans back out the doorway and knocks. And Lizzie says, "Yes, Dad, what do you want?" And Sam asks if she has any idea why her little brother is covered in dirt. And she says, "You caught me. I buried him in the backyard and he dug his way out." And here Sam kind of gives her a look and she says, "Joke! I don't know why he's mud boy, but I've got a lot to worry about, Dad. I'm getting married in the morning and if you would please excuse me." And Sam just calls for Joe and says, "Honey, a little help." Because he, of course, does not realize in this moment that it's going to be a class project.
Lizzie's giving some attitude right off the bat.
She is. She's stressed.
She is.
So,
rightfully so. It's like a Love is Blind. She doesn't know who it is.
So right after this, we're at school, and the teacher, they're in Mrs. Stebble's class. She's going through the rules for their assignment. She pairs everybody off. Everybody will get an occupation from a fishbowl, and they have to create a fictional lifestyle within the couple. And whichever couple has the best marriage doesn't have to write a paper. And she says it will last a week and it will end with a 20th school reunion party where they will give a report about their last 20 years. Any questions? And Animated Lizzie says, "Yeah, where's my bachelor number 1?
Yes. She's sitting on like a stool and a mic.
Yes.
That's funny.
So our first assignment is Kate. And she says, and this, I have to get here first, and then I'll give the line. But she says Kate Saunders. I'm sorry, Mrs. Stebble pronounces Sanders. And then a few minutes later, another character pronounces it as Saunders. And so I am confusion.
That's like in the babysitting episode when Lizzie said Kate Saunders babysits. But later on, she says Kate Sanders.
Can we just pick one?
Saunders. And I guess this is probably one of the last times we hear Saunders, because it is Sanders for the remainder of the series, I think.
Also, I am going to attribute this particular instance to the teacher's like particular pronunciation and vernacular, because when she says Miranda's name later, she says Sanchez instead of Sanchez. So I think this is just, I don't know. But anyways, Kate is paired with Larry Tudgman. And Animated Lizzie is just gleeful at this. She says, "Mr. and Mrs. Larry Tudgman, Mrs. Kate Tudgman, Kate Saunders Tudgman. It's all good." Kate, of course, is indignant and says she can't be married to Larry. And teacher says, "But you are married to Larry."
That sounds like something I would have said to a kid when they were...
Absolutely. And so Kate demands a new husband. Mrs. Stebble said there are no new husbands, and she tells Kate and Larry to come pick their jobs. Animated Lizzie says, "This is great. I could be married to a tree frog and still have a better marriage than her." And I am going to touch on Kate's outfit. Kate is in all white with a white t-shirt with a studded heart over the chest, a zip-up white jacket with fluffy cuffs, and she has I'm just going to call it a press-on French mani.
Yeah.
Square.
Seen her several times, like, at her desk, like...
And she files her nails a lot, yeah. Yeah. So, Larry selects his job first, and he's a mailman, and he's very excited about this. He says, "Hey, I'm a mailman. No, I'm a mail delivery man. For without me, there is no mail. I am the mailman."
Oh, my.
And Kate is a TV anchor woman, and she's thrilled about that.
I am a TV anchor woman.
And Larry says, "Honey, that is so great." And Kate says, "Put a cork in it, Tudgman."
She, like, snaps at him. And then I noticed the teacher was kind of, like, laughing as this interaction was occurring, which I would have laughed too. Honestly.
Fair.
And every time, like, we see this throughout the episode when Larry, like, puts his hand on her arm, she, like, slaps him away. Like,
she does.
"Don't touch me."
And it usually comes with one of those little doink sound effects when she smacks him.
Doink.
So Mrs. Stubble calls Lizzie next, and of course Animated Lizzie is chanting, "Ethan Craft, Ethan Craft, Ethan Craft!" And she gets paired with Gordo and says, "You know what? That's cool. Best friends equals best marriage. Mix those two together and we have a recipe for victory." And so Lizzie selects out a lawyer, and Gordo selects out sanitation engineer, aka garbage man. He says, I'm Gordo the garbage man. My wife's a lawyer. I pick up trash. And here Larry pops in and says, hey, it doesn't make you any less of a man. Trust me, I know. My wife's a TV personality.
Oh, man.
So next Miranda gets called, and Miranda is the lucky one that gets paired with Ethan Kraft. And animated Lizzie says, she's my best friend, so I guess I'm happy for her. But this is so unfair. And Ethan Kraft walks up and says, hey, Mrs. Ethan Kraft. And he picks out surgeon and says, that's like a doctor, right?
It's like a doctor, right?
And animated Lizzie says, okay, so I've met vegetables brighter than him, but he is a total hottie. And here, animated Lizzie's eyes are like a slot machine, like rolling, and there's two vegetables that pop up in her eyeballs. Of course, Gordo is upset he's a doctor, and I'm a garbage man. And Miranda is a homemaker. And then Ethan says, can I escort Mrs. Ethan Kraft to her seat? And Miranda says, that's Mrs. Dr. Ethan Kraft. So after class, they head to lunch, and Miranda comes over to Gordo and Lizzie, who are already seated, and says that she's going to eat with her husband, the doctor, today. And she's waving a giant ring in their faces, giant fake ring.
Oh, my.
And I said, they were just assigned this project today. Obviously, they knew about it because Lizzie knew about this morning before she went to school, but, like, surely they didn't have a ton of advance notice. So, like, how did Ethan just happen to have this ring with him?
You cannot tell me Ethan Kraft planned that, let alone even knew this was occurring at school today. Because
this is the same man that just said, surgeon, that's like a doctor, right?
You cannot tell me that this man planned that. Like, no, there's no convincing me of that. And also, before we move on, if this project had happened where I was assigned something like this when I was in middle school, and if I got paired with my crush or whatever, I would be, like, mortified. I would not, and under any circumstances, want to be placed with the boy that I had a crush on. Like, no, they're so, like, oh my gosh, please, like, any time with Ethan, and I would, like, be like, no, please don't look at me, like.
Honestly, either Gordo or Tudgman would be the dream husbands because they're both smart and they would both pull their own equal weight within the project. Exactly. Henceforth, no paper.
Yeah, if you're depending on Ethan Kraft to give you the best of a project, I hate to break it to you, but
I have news for you.
You're dreaming big there.
Yeah. So Lizzie, of course, is upset about this and says, did you see that rock on Miranda's hand? And animated Lizzie says, that's not a rock. That's a continent. And here Gordo starts ranting about trash, as we get many, many times in this episode. And he says that he's going to build a trash empire with employees and trucks and city contracts. It's going to be huge. And here we get a flash over to Larry and Kate. Kate is already seated at her lunch table, and Larry is trying to sit with her. And she says, do I know you? And he says, yeah, I'm your husband, Mrs. Stubble's class. Mailman, okay, we should probably get to work on this. And Kate says that she has plans, so she can't write a paper, so they need the best marriage. Which means he can't be in it. And Larry just sits down and basically ignores her. And he has an entire school lunch tray full of Brussels sprouts and offers Kate a Brussels sprout. And even though we're not there yet, I just have to point out, in the outtakes, we get that he can't even get these down. Like, they're so big, they're just boiled, like, clearly no seasoning. And every time he's trying to eat one for the scene, he's, like, spitting it halfway out.
I saw that, too. I was like, one, I don't like Brussels sprouts. Two, eating them unseasoned, like, come on.
I love a Brussels sprout, but it has to be, like, oven roasted or air fried, and it has to be seasoned well. Like, Ryan does them with balsamic vinegar and bacon, and, like, they're very tasty, but just plain boiled Brussels sprouts, you can miss me with that.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
So we're back to Gordo and Lizzie, and Gordo is ranting more about truck. It's just one truck, and then that becomes two trucks, and then that becomes three, and then a fleet of garbage trucks. And, of course, Lizzie, not listening. She's got eyes on Ethan and Miranda.
Did you see when Gordo's going off about this little garbage truck tangent? Over his shoulder, you can still see Kate and Larry arguing in the background.
Oh my gosh, I missed that.
He's still trying to give her, like, Brussels sprouts, and she's like...
So Gordo realizes that Lizzie is not listening to him, and he's like, are you even listening to me? Hello? And she says, yeah, you're talking about trash. And even though she's not fully listening to him, that's the gist of it. Even if I was listening to him fully, that would still be my response. Yeah, you're talking about trash.
Yeah, justified.
Oh, and here we go. This is right back to taking friends for granted. Gordo says, you know, Lizzie, I know we're best friends, but I feel like you take me for granted. Like now. Lizzie's still not paying attention, and he says, how do you think that makes me feel? We've been married for less than a period, and you're already jealous of someone else's husband. Lizzie says she's not jealous, and Gordo says we need to work together. And animated Lizzie says, she's Mrs. Dr. Ethan Kraft. I'm married to a trash man. I'm not jealous.
Like, saying it through gritted teeth. She's like,
yeah.
I'm not jealous.
So we're back at the McGuire home, and Matt is charging through, again, still covered in dirt, mud, etc. Joe is trying to figure out what he's doing and asks Lizzie if she knows. And Lizzie says, Mom, I'm his sister. We don't talk. And then Joe says that she's worried, that he's been really good lately, but just too good. And is she sure she hasn't noticed anything weird? And Lizzie says, besides his troll-like appearance and his distaste for hygiene, no. Anyway, I've got enough to worry about. Miranda gets to be Mrs. Dr. Ethan Kraft, and I get to be married to Gordo the Trash King. And here, similar to Sam in that first scene, Joe is like, wait a minute, looking very confused. And she says, oh, school project, don't worry.
Honestly, though, Matt's activities and appearance this episode were very troll-like. So
they were very troll-like.
Lizzie has a point here.
She does. So Joe says, I don't know what your teacher is telling you, but marriage is not about how much you earn or what you have. It's about love and trust and communication. And she turns to Sam and says, right, honey? Sam says, huh? And Joe says, just say yes. And Sam says, yes. And Joe says, good boy. And in a nutshell, that is marriage.
Yep.
And they kiss, and animated Lizzie says, it's nice that my parents like each other, but it's gross when they kiss in front of me. Ugh. And Lizzie says, I am so out of here, and leaves to go work on her project. And here, Sam and Joe start to discuss how they're worried about Matt. And Joe suggests that she goes to follow him. So he goes and gets his coat and finds Matt in the backyard. And he finds him via several shovelfuls full of dirt.
He, under his jacket, still has his dress shirt on.
Yeah.
Like, literally just came from the office and was like, let me go follow. He's doing something in dirt, but yeah, let me not go change and see.
So after taking probably 3 shovelfuls of dirt to the face, Sam finally makes contact with Matt and asks what he's doing. And Matt says, tidying up my cave.
Like, duh.
And Sam looks around and he says, is that what this is? And Matt says, yeah. And Sam says, I didn't know there was a cave up here. And Matt says there wasn't. And this is where we find out that Matt dug the cave. And Sam asks how long it took. And Matt says, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And Sam says why, and Matt thinks he's asking like why it took him a couple of weeks, and he starts to go off on this tangent about how he ran into these rocks and Sam says, no, Matt, I mean, why did you dig a cave? And Matt says, Dad, haven't you ever wanted a place that is your own, a place you can just hang? And Sam says, each and every day of my life, son. And so here Matt says, are you going to tell Mom? And Sam says, well, you have parental supervision, so that would make this okay. And Matt says, welcome to the Matt cave.
Like, what? I guess it's just 10-year-old boy logic, but I'm like, you know what? I want a place of my own. Cave.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
What? Duh.
I mean, it's boys, you know, boys are okay with dirt.
That's true. That's true.
So we are now at the digital bean, and animated Lizzie says, Kate, Ethan, probably totally innocent. Wait, it's Kate. Definitely not totally innocent.
She's got a point.
So here Kate is pitching to Ethan that Mrs. Stubble made a mistake, and she is planning to leave Larry at the reunion. And Ethan says, so does that mean I get 2 wives? And Kate says, no, but if you leave Miranda, then you and I could be married. And Ethan says, that's still pretty cool. And Kate says, how does that sound, Dr. Kraft? And Ethan says, you're really smart.
They are taking this way too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, all of this is way too into this.
Yeah. And in the midst of them having this conversation, Lizzie is kind of like creeping around a corner and like trying to like hear the conversation closer. And of course, in classic Lizzie fashion, she ends up slipping and falling on the floor. And when she does slip and fall on the floor, she gets her hair stuck in gum underneath Kate and Ethan's table. And right after this, the server walks up to the table that they're at and squats down to hand Lizzie the smoothie that she had ordered with Lizzie's hair still in the gum. And it's like, excuse me, here's your drink. And so, of course, Lizzie, leans up to Kate and Ethan is like, hi.
I wanted to see the aftermath of this, but it doesn't show it. Like,
I know. Kate had something to say.
How do you explain this situation? Like,
I feel like she would have been like, what are you doing here, McGuire?
And Lizzie would,
Oh, goodness. Animated Lizzie says, I would give this year's allowance to be able to be any place but here right now. Maybe 2 years. And so now we're back at the McGuire house. It's Lizzie and Gordo, and they're supposed to be working on their project. And Gordo says, garbage is gold. Stinky gold, but gold nonetheless. And Lizzie says, whatever. And Gordo says, you got to give me a hand here. You want the perfect marriage, and you've been making 0 effort. And Lizzie says, Gordo, quit nagging me. Gordo says, nagging you? I wouldn't have to nag you if you paid attention to me. And Lizzie says, I'd pay attention to you if you talked about something other than garbage. And I have to just say here, like, this is all so, like, direct marriage trope. Except it's
reversed. Say that.
Because usually it's the wife nagging the husband, and this time it's Gordo nagging Lizzie.
And then, like, I was about to say that too. I'm like, they wrote this dialogue to be, like, close to the whole, like, nagging wife marriage trope. For sure.
But Lizzie's mind is other places, and rightfully so, because her friend is going through something. And so here's where Lizzie tells Gordo what's going on. So Sam and Matt come through the house, and they're like ranting back and forth about things that they need. Sam's like, I think there's a bunch of batteries in the garage. There's more beef jerky in the pantry. And here Joe is trying to get their attention and figure out what they're doing.
What are they up to?
Joe says, Sam, can I talk to you for a second? And Sam says, sure. And here Matt is like rifling through the fridge, getting supplies, etc. Joe asks what's going on, and Sam says nothing, just a little male bonding time with me and Matt. And as they scurry back outside, Joe calls after them, you know I'm going to find out.
When has Joe not found out?
Never.
Joe is like, when they make those lists of best TV moms, Joe McGuire needs to be on there.
Nothing gets past her.
Nothing gets past Joe.
So now Lizzie is finally explaining what happened, that she went to the Digital Bean and she saw Ethan and Kate together, and that Kate was planning to leave Larry and trying to get Ethan to do the same thing to Miranda. And Gordo says it's just a school project, it's not real. And Lizzie says it will be real to Miranda when she gets dumped in front of the entire class. And Gordo says that she's right and that she has to tell her beforehand. And Lizzie's asking how she does that. And Gordo says, well, you'll have to talk to her.
I mean, there's no one else that can.
Yeah. We're back at the Digital Bean again, and here Lizzie is attempting to confront Miranda. So she sits down with Miranda and says that she hasn't seen her around. And Miranda says, yeah, being a doctor's wife can be pretty hectic. And Lizzie said, so how's it all working for you? And she says, oh, we've decided that Ethan is a heart surgeon. We have 3 kids, Brittany, Gwyneth, and Ethan Jr. I drive the kids to soccer practice in my metallic blue SUV with beige leather interior. And I said, this is like so teenager coded that she's got all of the details of her particular vehicle worked out. Like,
yes.
It's giving MASH.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Like, in a school project at that age, you would think that that would be the important details, not like who's responsible for paying the bills, right. Who does the grocery shopping, how do you split chores. She's like, no, I have a metallic blue SUV. That's all that you need to know.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
And so Lizzie asks, what about Ethan? And Miranda says, he works a lot. Heart surgeons do, you know. He'll meet me here later. This project is so much fun. And here Lizzie tries to say to Miranda that she has to tell her something, and enter Ethan. Hey, ladies, Dr. E's in the house. And here we get animated Lizzie saying, I am so erasing his name from my notebook.
She doesn't.
And animated Lizzie is using a chainsaw to destroy said notebook.
She doesn't, though. We know she's back in love with Ethan the next episode.
Of course. Who wouldn't be, though?
And we could even, I know we talked about the Lizzie McGuire revival a lot. Ethan was going to be in it. That Lizzie hooked up with him when she was, like, in her 30s.
Get it, girl.
Oh, man. Ugh. So much happened.
So Ethan says, sorry I'm late. I had some doctor stuff to do. And Miranda prompts Lizzie back into the conversation. You were saying, Lizzie? And Lizzie right here just chickens out. She can't do it. She says, I was saying that I'm meeting Gordo. I'm meeting Gordo here, so I have to go. Yep. And animated Lizzie says, I'm not a coward, really. It's just really not the right time. And Miranda calls after Lizzie, I hope you guys are as happy as we are. And of course, Gordo gets there right as Miranda says this and says, she doesn't sound too upset. And Lizzie says, that's because she doesn't know. I couldn't tell her. I mean, she looks so happy. Gordo says, you know, the longer you wait, the more hurt she's going to get. And so now we're back at the McGuire house again, back in the Matt cave. And both guys are sitting in like lawn chairs that they've dragged in there. And I think they've both got sodas in their hand. Matt says, does it get much better than this? And Sam says, nope, it doesn't. You know, I've been thinking we really need some more room. And Matt says, talk to me. And Sam suggests that they could blow through that wall another 7 feet to have enough room for a generator for indoor lights. And Matt said, and TV. Can't forget TV. And Sam agrees that TV would be cool, and that they could punch a hole in the roof to bring in satellite. And then Sam says, how big of a screen do you think we could get in here? And right now is when Joe finds out.
She always does.
Joe has crawled into the mouth of the cave and is like, what are you guys doing in here? Get out of this mud hole right now. And they both say in unison, but, and Joe says, no buts. This thing could collapse at any minute. Come on.
She's
and
right.
Matt says, but it's cool. And Joe says, I know it's cool, honey, but it's dangerous. Right, Sam? Right, Sam? And Sam says, son, she caught us fair and square. At this point, resistance is futile. And Matt says, women, you can't live with them. You can't let them know where your cave is.
Oh my gosh. This B-plot was so, like, random.
So good.
Yes. I was like, how did they be like, okay, we're going to take Matt. He's going to build a cave all on his own. Mm-hmm. And Sam is going to be in on it. Yeah. As adult supervision, so it's technically okay. Oh, gosh. And so now we're back at school on project day, and Gordo is in his trash man jumpsuit. Lizzie says, I cannot believe you're wearing that. And Gordo says, well, I'm a trash man. I'm proud of where I come from. And Lizzie says, don't you care if we win? Gordo says, no, not anymore. I care that ever since we got married, you just seem annoyed by me. I care that I feel like my best friend is taking me for granted. And this is like almost another like parallel marriage conversation about like, why do you always seem so annoyed by me? Right. It's like, well, because you're annoying. But I'll check my attitude. Sorry. Or the other marriage trope that a lot of shows do is like, after we got married, you just are like so annoyed and less interested in me. So yeah, because you became more annoying. Your flaws became more apparent. Unfortunately. So, animated Lizzie here says, not only am I a wimp, I'm a jerk. I'm batting 2 for 2. And so here we get a little glimpse of the first presentation, which is a farmer and a cop. And they've got 3 kids, and the teacher says, commuter marriage, interesting. So next up, we have Kate Saunders and Larry Tudgman. And here, Kate is in a pink skirt suit with the most heinous blowout I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure it's a wig rather than an actual blowout. Oh, yeah, yeah. And I actually have a thought about the wig that I'll share at the end. Okay.
So Kate gets up there and snatches the mic and says, I left Larry the day after our wedding. Of course there were no children. I replaced Katie Couric on the Today Show and won several Emmys. I lived fabulously ever after. The end. Do I win?
Do I win?
And I'm like, girl, how did you think that you won with that? Because, like, the whole point was to work together. And, like,
exactly.
Even aside from that, the whole rest of the class hasn't gone. There's several more presentations. So, like, she can't just declare you the winner before everybody's had a chance.
What just really killed me about her speech was she goes, I left Larry the day after the wedding. Of course, there were no children.
I mean, fair.
That killed me.
And so Larry says, I do not remember agreeing to any of that. And Mrs. Stebble says, Kate, Larry, I want to see you after the presentations, please. And then says after a 5-minute break, Miranda and Ethan are going to present. And here Lizzie starts to walk away and Gordo asks where she's going. And Lizzie says to tell her, I can't let her be embarrassed in front of the entire class. I mean, sure, she's been Dr. Ethan Kraft for a week, but Miranda's been my friend for much longer. And I can't just let her walk into this. And so she goes up to Miranda and asks if they can talk. And Miranda says, can't this wait? I'm about to give my report. And Lizzie says, no, it can't. And so Miranda turns to Ethan and says, give us a sec. And he says, sure thing, sweetheart, with like a wink and like I think like a finger gun moment.
She was like, can you give us a sec?
Yeah. And so Lizzie says, Ethan is going to leave you, like, now. And here Miranda jumps straight to the worst conclusion. Just because you're jealous doesn't give you the right to make stuff up. And Lizzie says, Miranda, I'm not making it up. I'm your friend. And Miranda says, yeah, some friend you are. And Lizzie says, some friend I am. One lame school project and you're spending all of your time waiting around for some guy who doesn't even care about you. Who's going to leave you and embarrass you in front of the entire class? And Miranda says, what are you talking about? Ethan and I spend tons of time together. And Lizzie says, no, Ethan spends a ton of time with Kate. I saw them at the Digital Bean together. Kate asked Ethan to leave you at the reunion just like she left Larry. I tried to tell you, but you seemed so happy. And I'm like, why did Lizzie lead with this?
Yeah.
I the placement of the way that this conversation flows is a little bit off to me. But then this is also, I feel like, another trope we get in like teen shows where one friend is in a relationship and has left the other friend to go spend all of their time with them. Mm-hmm. And like there we get to the root of like why Lizzie is really upset. Mm-hmm. Is because she wants to hang out with Miranda and Miranda's hanging out with Ethan.
Yeah.
And so it's time to give their report, and Ethan says into the mic, yo, is there a Mrs. Doctor in the house? And so he begins the presentation and says, me and Miranda had our issues, you know, like on Ricky Lake. And Miranda says, Ethan was a heart surgeon. I was a homemaker. We had 3 kids, Brittany, Gwyneth, and Ethan Jr. We had a vacation house, a swimming pool. I thought we had a pretty good life. And Ethan says, yeah, and then Miranda jumps in and says, but Ethan was seeing someone else. Weren't you, Ethan?
She, like, snatched the mic from him.
Ethan's clearly been caught here. He's like, no. And so Miranda says, Ethan was going to leave me for Kate. But you see, doctor, that's not how I operate. Okay, pun.
No.
She says, I'm leaving you. You can take the car. You can take everything. But you can't take my dignity. I can't be married to someone who can't even manage to be my friend. And she throws the microphone on the ground and runs off of the stage. And Ethan bends down to pick it up and says into the microphone, Kate, I thought I was going to have 2 wives. Now, I got none.
And if you're listening to us, we did the hand motion that Ethan did, where he, 2 wives, held up 2, and then he slowly puts them both down and goes, none.
And you can tell that he really had to think about it, going from the number 2 to the number 0. He really had to put some thought behind that.
And this, I feel like, is the first time we see Ethan's character development of turning into, an idiot, basically. Because originally, like we said earlier episodes, Ethan was supposed to be the jock bully guy, and Danny Kessler was supposed to be the heartthrob.
Yep.
Danny Kessler is no more. So now Ethan is the heartthrob / dummy of the show. And it only gets worse.
Yeah.
It only gets worse. But this is one of Ethan's classic dumb moments that I remember for me.
Yes. And so we're at the, like, refreshments table in the classroom, and Larry says, Kate, we have to go talk to Mrs. Stebble. And Kate says, you better keep your mouth shut and agree that all of our decisions were mutual. I am not writing a report because you're a lousy husband. And here Larry starts to stand up for himself. Larry says, oh, I'm a lousy husband? Well, maybe if you had just worked with me like I asked, and the rules said, we wouldn't be in this problem.
Go off, Larry.
And Kate says, fine, I'll work with you. This marriage is over. How's that work for you? Now pour me some punch. And she huffs and, like, turns her back on him and crosses her arms over her chest. And here Larry says, yeah, I'll pour you some punch. And he takes the ladle out of the punch bowl and dumps it over the top of Kate's head.
It was so funny. Oh my gosh.
And then Larry says, now this marriage is over.
We got, like, the camera angles of Larry dumping it and, like, 3 different angles of Kate, too. And it was so good because you can see the Ashley Brielle actually, they had to cut it off early because she started laughing. You can see that she starts, like, smiling at the end of it.
Okay, here's where I have the thought about the wig.
Okay.
What I think is the wig. I think it is a wig because that hair, when it gets wet, looks the exact same as the hair in the Halloween episode when she has to put the chocolate cake in her hair and dump the punch on her head.
Oh.
So I think it's definitely possible that it was a wig. Maybe not. Maybe that's just what her hair looks like when it's, like, teased with a bunch of product. But I got, like, a parallel moment there.
Yeah, that was... If that's her hair, if anything, she at least had clip-ins and that had that volume and that was a lot of teasing.
And you know that they had to reshoot this scene several times. Like, there's just no way that they got it on the first take, especially considering that we got multiple camera angles.
Yeah.
So to have to, like, wash, dry, and blow out that same hair on her head 3 separate times, three or more separate times, it just makes more sense to me that it was either a wig or some clip-in extensions.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, and then Gordo with the zinger. I guess that's the risk you take when you marry a postal worker.
Oh my gosh.
And so, after school, we're on another 3-way call with the gang. And Miranda says, I can't believe Ethan was going to leave me. It had to happen, right? And Gordo and Lizzie say, yeah. And Miranda says, well, I'm sorry I blew you guys off for Ethan. And Gordo says, now you know who your real friends are. And Lizzie says, that was some speech you gave, Miranda. And Miranda said, yeah, well, I have my real friends to thank for that. And Lizzie says that she can't believe that Miranda didn't win, and that it ended up being the cop and the farmer that took it. And Gordo says, a commuter marriage? How difficult was that? I mean, Lizzie, you and we had some real issues we worked through. And Lizzie says, yeah, and we still have 500 words due on Monday. And so Miranda asks what they're going to write, and Lizzie says, I think I might write about not taking people for granted and being really lucky when you can marry your best friend. And Gordo says, oh, great, you realize this now? Where was that a couple of hours ago? We could have won with that. And Miranda says she's waiting a really, really long time before she gets married. And Lizzie said, yeah, I think we're too young to even pretend we're married. And Gordo says, I agree. My trash empire could have been something big. And here both of the girls simultaneously hang up on Gordo. And he goes, hello? And the girls in unison say, guys. And Gordo says, chicks.
What if in the revival series, Gordo built his trash empire?
That would be amazing.
Oh, man.
I also think it's funny that Lizzie ended up being a lawyer in her career that she drew out of the fishbowl, because we know that Ashley Brielle in real life is a lawyer.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
So then we get outtakes. And the most memorable outtake for me was Sam dragging Matt around in the dirt to, like, prepare him for all of his cave scenes.
Yes.
And you can tell that, like, he's just having the time of his life. You hear a producer in the background that's like, don't have too much fun, Jake.
I thought that was cute. Oh my gosh.
That was cute.
And then the 3-way call scene where
the phone swap.
Yeah, they swap the phones and then they all exit out the same door.
Yep.
That was cute. I liked those.
It was, and that, like, I remember that being, like, such a mind F as a kid, like, because you are assuming as a child that, like, they're shooting 3 separate sequences and mashing them all together, when in reality, all 3 of them are against one wall. It's just 3 different panels, like, decorated differently.
Oh my gosh. I know. That is such a, like, mind blown moment. The mind blow emoji. That's how I felt.
1,000,000%.
Oh gosh. Well, that was cute. I liked that episode. Sorry, Miranda girl, that you had to go through that. But we know you get over it quick because y'all are in love with Ethan in the next episode. So.
I mean, how could you not be? How could you not be?
Middle schoolers, they can be resilient. So.
All right, what was your favorite outfit and line of the episode?
Okay, I didn't mention this before, but at the scene when they're getting their assignments, Lizzie had on a blue leather jacket and floral pants that I thought was super cute. And then I loved Kate's fuzzy sleeves. Her white fuzzy sleeves, so super cute. I can never go wrong with a Kate outfit.
Yeah.
My favorite line, I think I'm going to go with, I thought I had 2 wives.
Dang it! That was going to be mine. Give me a second. I'll pick another one.
Okay, I was going to say, or I could pick another one, whichever. I just thought of another good one, but I'll let you go first.
Oh. It's got to be Joe. It's got to be, I'm going to find out.
That was a good one. I was going to say Gordo's comment about postal work was funny.
That was funny.
Gordo.
And my favorite outfit has to be Kate in her pink skirt suit with her either wig or just crazy teased hair.
Her Jackie Kennedy pink suit.
Yes. 1,000,000%.
Oh, this one was cute. I liked this one. Honestly, but at the end of it all, I don't know what Kate's end game with this plan she hatched up, because by the time she announces that she's leaving Larry, like, the project's already over. So you don't get any time to spend, and if you didn't want to spend time with Larry, like, you didn't have to, I guess. Like, you could have just hung out with Ethan and, like, been like, whatever.
I just don't know how in her mind she thought that she was going to get, like, a passing grade for pulling a stunt like this. Like, that's got to be what's most confusing to me.
Yeah. That frontal lobe was not working at all.
The frontal lobe is not lobing.
No, it is not. But
not yet.
Yeah, I don't know why she thought she would get a passing grade. I don't know what her end game was. Like, none of it makes sense. But
no,
it sounds diabolical, like Kate. So, I'm not surprised that she came up with something so crazy.
Oh yeah.
All right. So what's our next episode?
It's Bad Girl McGuire.
Lizzie gets detention.
Lizzie gets detention.
And she turns into a bad girl. She
does, and I know we've got some good fashion in this episode because I know we get a fake nose ring.
Take a chill pill, parents.
You would be able to just recite lines from that episode off the top of your head. Swear, Steel Trap does not even cover it.
I don't know, I just got a good memory. You know, when I was in the 4th grade, when we had to do this test that measured how many words a minute you read, but then you also had to recall all of the facts. So, like testing your reading comprehension level. When I was in, like, the 4th grade, I tested on, like, a 10th grade level for comprehension.
So I went to elementary school in Georgia, so we tested at different times because in Georgia we had, like, an enrichment program. So, like, you got pulled out of class on Fridays to go do, like, more advanced stuff. So I was in, like, enrichment all through elementary school, but they did that testing when we were in, like, the 1st grade. And in the 1st grade, I had the reading comprehension of a 15-year-old. So, yeah. Relatable. Relatable. And now I use that reading comprehension to read thrillers and fairy smut.
Yes.
And I can remember nothing about the plot line the minute I'm done with the book. So it's working really well for me.
Yeah, it's all turned out really well. Really well.
Really well. Any other parting thoughts?
Marry the love of your life, not the popular guy.
Yeah.
Because they will not be kind to you. Like, Ethan wasn't kind to Miranda.
No.
But it's fine. They're resilient. They're in love with him again next week.
Order will be restored.
Oh, absolutely. And he's even in the movie.
Yep.
And Miranda's not.
Yep.
She wanted to go film You Wish with AJ Trauth.
Fair. He was a heartthrob too.
Twitty.
Witty.
He and Ethan kind of look alike.
They do. It's the hair. It's like the floppy hair.
That was like a Sean Hunter hair from Boy Meets World.
Yes, it was. Well, that is all we have for you guys this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your support over these last 10 episodes. We can't wait for the next 10. If you liked this episode or like our podcast, please rate 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening, and be sure to subscribe. We are the Outfit Repeaters podcast on all platforms. And until next week, we're outie.